I'm Hal McGee. Welcome to the HalTapes website. I've been making homemade experimental music since 1982, and back in the 1980s we distributed our music on cassettes. We did that throughout the 90s into the late 90s, and then we started using CDRs and kept on doing cassettes. And then in the last few years of the first decade of the 2000s, we started distributing music online. Recently, I ceased producing hard copies of my music. That is, I stopped producing cassettes and CDRs and all of my music and that of my friends on the HalTapes label. It's all now available online in downloadable format. Well, I think one of the big challenges of online music is to make it personal somehow, to make it as personal as cassettes were. Cassettes were one-of-a-kind objects, uh, very tactile, uh, very individualistic, and it's a big challenge to somehow find a way to make online music as personal. Uh, and I've been working on this website now for a few years, and I've been loading it with content. And I've been striving to make it as personal as possible. So when you visit this website, I want you to feel like you're visiting my home, my virtual home. So when you come to the HalTapes website at haltapes.com, if you click on the News tab, you will find information and quick links to the newest HalTapes label releases. And if you click on any of these album covers, you'll go to a page devoted to that album. And on those pages, you will find artwork, a streaming audio player, a download link, extensive information, and uh, more artwork that goes with the album. Over here, you'll see a list of newly reissued albums from my back catalog. This is a list of albums that I just recently uploaded. Some of this stuff dates back to like 1986. On up into the 90s and the 2000s. So if you click on any of those red hyperlinks, you'll go to a page just for that album. There's also information here on a couple of recent articles of interest that you might want to read. If you click on those red hyperlinks, you'll go to pages where you can read those articles. Back at the top of every page, you'll find a link to Halbums. And this is a list of all of my currently available albums. I'm making an effort to get this all up to date, but this is a list of just about every album that I've produced going all the way back to 1982. And you can see by scrolling through this that not only are there a lot of solo works by me, but there are also a lot of compilations and a lot of collaborations, as you can see there. So there's a little bit of something for everybody on the HalTapes website. Here's a big compilation project. Solo works of experimental music by myself, but also lots of splits as well, lots of compilations, lots of collaborations. This is a community website in a big way. So this, like I said, this goes all the way back to 1982, and if you click on any of these red hyperlinks, you will go to individual album pages. Let's take a look at one. Let's click on this red hyperlink for 60 Minutes of Laughter, which was the first audio cassette production I was ever involved in. And you click on that, and here you will find extensive information about 60 Minutes of Laughter. There's a picture of me and Debbie Jaffe from like 1982-83, the album cover, a streaming audio player, and if you click on that play button, you will be able to listen to the album in its entirety while you read this page. And if you want to go on to the second track, you click these two double arrows there. If you want to download the album, if you want to purchase a download, you click on the buy link. But as you can see here, there's a lot of information, a lot of cassette culture history that you can read about, a lot of detailed information on how the album was created, the ideas behind it, the methods, the philosophy, and not every page on the HalTapes site is this extensive, but many are. So I invite you to have fun exploring the site, and like I said, if you go back to this albums page, you can just go down through this list and click these links and find lots of information and great sounds. Click on the Downloads tab and you will find quick links to each of my 5 Bandcamp sites. Now when you get to these sites, you will find streaming audio players and download links just like you found on the HalTapes website. I have embedded audio players and download links from the Bandcamp site on each of the album pages, or the album pages on my website. But if you want to go and just look at and listen to all of my albums on my main Bandcamp page, click on that link. And here, over here on the main HalTapes page on Bandcamp, you can see the various album covers of all of the HalTapes albums that I offer on this particular Bandcamp site. And if you click on one of these links, here's the most recent album, We Both Lose by Fiverr Stereo and Hal McGee. You will find an audio player very similar to the audio player that you found on my website. If you like what you hear, you can purchase a download, and the downloads are available in numerous formats. There are like 3 different MP3 formats, but there's also CD quality lossless FLAC, and there's also something called ALAC, which is Apple Lossless Audio Codec. This is the one that I use quite a lot for my personal listening, and I recommend it because it is usable on all iOS devices and all desktop devices. But when you go and you click on that buy link, you can put in any amount, $1 and above, that you want to pay. If you in your mind feel that the album is worth $3, you can enter $3 and you can pay that much when you check out via PayPal or some of these other forms of payment. So going back to the HalTapes site, you can also explore some of my other Bandcamp pages. If you want to look at all of the compilations that I've produced, you can go to the HalTapes compilation page and you can click on each one of these pages. Here's the Big Florida Noise compilation, which had over 100 artists contribute to it. Pretty cool. But all of these links and all of these albums can be found on the HalTapes site as well. Let's take a look at a few other things. The Indianapolis 1981 to 88 section of my website features writings, recordings, and publications by Debbie Jaffe and Hal McGee from the 1980s. And it includes work by our friends in the early 1980s experimental scene in Indianapolis. There's also a section here on the Cause and Effect cassette distribution service and label that Jaffe and I operated in the mid-1980s. There's a lot of cassette culture history here. Of particular interest to visitors to this section of the site, you might want to take a look at the section devoted to the early Jaffe and McGee tapes. These are rare early recordings by Jaffe and myself, raw and as primitive as it gets. You can click on, let's take a look at one here. Let's take a look at a page here. You've got pictures of those cassettes, and in many cases, it takes a little while here sometimes for these pages to open up. Just got to be patient depending on your connection speed. There we go. You've got pictures of the cassettes and extensive notes written by me about what you can hear on those tapes. And on most of those pages, you'll have streaming audio players where you can listen to the entire tape while you're reading about the tape on the page. Moving on, let's take a look at the email tab. You can contact me here by clicking on that hyperlink. That'll take you to an email form where you can contact me. The Walls of Genius site. This is a huge sub-site of the HalTapes site. It's a comprehensive online archive dedicated to Walls of Genius, the cassette culture 1980s anti-heroes of the scene, with detailed histories of each tape by head moron Evan Cantor and assistant head moron Little Theodore. Let's take a look at this. Here's a list of all of their cassettes, and you can click on any of these and go to a page dedicated to that cassette release, and it's got extensive artwork and hyper detailed commentary by Cantor and Little Theodore about the tapes. As you can see, this really goes into the nuts and bolts of what it was like to create homemade experimental and avant-garde music in the 1980s. Now, these pages also include audio players where you can stream the entire album. So just click on the play button, and it takes about maybe 10 seconds for the audio to load, and then you can listen to the music in streaming audio while you look at the artwork and read the texts. But there's a lot more to explore on the Walls of Genius site, so please just take your time and have fun and look at all of the great photos and read all of the great history. Also on my website, there is a huge interview with Hawaiian lo-fi noise god JT Yamamoto. And as you can see, there's lots of information and artwork here as well. And I'm not really going to go into much more detail here except to say that take your time, have fun, and explore. There's also a section of my website where you can read various articles by me that I've written over the years. And one of these links will take you to my microcassette manifesto, which is a fairly well-known article. There's also, let's see, we've got here an interview with me that Don Campo did at his Living Archive of Underground Music back in 2011. So if you want to check out some of the things that I've written over the years, the place you need to go is the Words tab. Here's also a page that is under development, devoted to the Harsh Reality music label, which is operated by Chris Finney in the 80s and 90s. There's a video section, and if you click on each of these pages, you can view hundreds of videos from over the years of me in performance, either solo or with collaborators. Well, I could go on and on showing you all the things on this website, but hopefully you've got a pretty good idea now of the efforts I've made to make you feel at home when you come to my website. And I hope that you will visit often and consider this a place you can come when you want to find out more about homemade experimental music. There's a lot of information on other artists besides myself here. So you've just got to come here and explore and check it out. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you at HalTapes.com